Welcome to the Lifestyles Unlimited Real Estate Investor Radio Show, a real estate investment program. Listen and learn how to use real estate to build wealth and passive income streams for you and your family. We bring you experts every day to discuss and answer your questions on everything from single-family homes all the way up to 600-plus unit apartment complexes. And now, the Lifestyles Unlimited Real Estate Investor Radio Show.
Welcome to the show. My name is Al Gordon, and as always, we're working on your financial freedom. On today's show, I'm going to take you back 20 years because you know exactly what I'm about ready to talk about. I'm about ready to tell you what my experience was 20 years ago when I, as well as you, experienced the equivalent of our Pearl Harbor event. Now, my parents grew up during the Great Depression, and they were young when the Japanese made a decision to attack America on December 7th in 1941. And those events eventually dragged this nation into a global war. We called that war World War II. It was supposed to be the last time we went into major conflict. But unfortunately, the human race has a tendency to do what the human race wants to do. And there are people that make decisions, whether they are ideological, whether they are financial, it doesn't matter what they are using to formulate their decisions. They make decisions that impact other people. And that's exactly what happened on December 7th in 1941. It changed everybody's lives. It totally changed everybody's lives. So 20 years ago tomorrow, you and I, we experienced our D-Day moment. You know exactly where you were when you finally heard the information that the United States was attacked. And we were trying to figure out what was going on. We had no idea. It's like Orson Welles was on the radio telling the story of the War of the Worlds, and everybody believed it, except this time it was real. And it was impacting us on the spot. Now, for me, it was a surreal moment in time. And it's very hard for me to describe what was going on in my world that day, because when I woke up to get ready to go to work, because at that time I was serving in the Army, and I had just been reassigned to a new battalion headquarters to serve as the executive officer, and all of the units within that battalion were part of a redesigned system that was a spillover from the original Gulf War. You remember Desert Storm, Desert Shield? Yeah, so we did that in 1990, and one of the things that we found out in 1990 was that the condition of the equipment in the National Guard and Reserve systems was terrible. See, in the Army, we had been following this hand-me-down policy for many, many years, where we would acquire material, we would acquire equipment, we would utilize that in the active forces. Once it hit a serviceable shelf life, so to speak, then it was transferred to the reserve components to be utilized. And as a result of that, what we found out during Desert Storm, Desert Shield, was that although we had people ready, willing, and able to go, our equipment wasn't quite to the standards. So the Army made a decision after the Gulf War, and they started to modernize our reserve components. Well, the battalion that I was assigned to was a part of the National Guard system. It was a part of the California National Guard. And all of the subordinate companies in that particular battalion were part of this redesigned system. So we were fielded with brand new equipment, something that the National Guard system and the reserve system had not necessarily seen like forever. Yeah, that's just kind of the way it works. So ironically, I had just been assigned to this unit in August. I had been at work in this new battalion for maybe about 30 days. I'd moved my family from Southern California up to Central California because that's where this unit was located. And unlike normal days when I get up to get ready for work, at least back in the day, I had a routine. I did. I would get up in the morning, I would work out, I would get cleaned up, I would turn on the news, make some breakfast, go about my day, get my uniform on, get out of the house, get to work, do things as normal. But on September 11th of 2001, things were a little different for me that day. And I can't really describe to you very clearly what was going on in my world, but there was this strange sense when I woke up that things were kind of out of place. I didn't get up and do my normal workout. I didn't go about turning on the news like I normally did. For whatever reason, I just got up in the morning and kind of did a few things, got ready for work, got into my truck, started driving down the road, turned on the radio in my truck, and I swore I was hearing War of the Worlds. I heard that the first plane had crashed into the World Trade Center. And I wasn't sure what I was listening to. That's where my head was at. I thought for whatever reason, the AM radio station I was listening to was playing some version of War of the Worlds. Except there was no entertainment value to it. There was no entertainment value to it. As a matter of fact, it was very direct, hard reporting on what was going on in the scenes. And when I got to the armory, I went inside and I found another fellow officer who actually had the only television set in the entire facility. And I watched in horror, standing next to his side, the second plane hit the World Trade Center. And I knew right there and then my world was about ready to change. I knew your world was about ready to change. And change it did. When we come back from the break, I'm going to pick up the story because we're going to talk about change today.
We're back with the Lifestyles Unlimited Real Estate Investor Radio Show. We're here to answer your questions and help you become financially free.
So 20 years ago tomorrow, I am standing next to a fellow officer in his office in a place called Fresno, California, and we're watching an airplane fly into the second tower. And my heart sunk. My heart sunk because in that time period from when I started to realize that what I had been listening to on the radio on the way to work was not fantasy, it was in true fact. When I arrived at work and I sought out a visual reference point and found it, I stood in horror. I stood in horror as that second plane hit. And everything went eerily silent. Eerily silent. No emails were coming in. No phones were ringing. Nothing was occurring. The federal government had shut down the air transportation system and grounded all flights. And that's when they found out there were 2 more birds in the air that posed a threat. A little while later, there was a plane that hit the Pentagon, directly attacking the image of the warfighter in this country. Basically, the bad guys telling us, you know what, you ain't nothing. We will take you out. And then later on that morning, a plane went down in Pennsylvania that everyone believes was targeting Congress. Yeah, we believe that's where that plane was headed. But because of Americans that realized what was going on, they took it on their own part to defend this country. And unfortunately, they did not result in a plane landing softly on a runway. No. Their end result was to avert destruction, but unfortunately to meet their own. So 20 years ago tomorrow, my life radically changed. My footprint in the military went from one of training and readiness and being prepared to support all mission sets, foreign, domestic, whatever, humanitarian aid, changed. Everything changed to we need to get ready to go to war. Now, we have never, ever declared war, as far as I know. Now, maybe I missed something, but we really haven't declared any kind of war. Congress has failed to do its part. Yet for the past 20 years, we have been fighting in harm's way. And last month, we watched as a decision was made to pull the warfighting forces out of Afghanistan. I will tell you that was difficult for me. It was difficult for me to watch all of that go down. But I also understand that at one point, I took an oath. I swore that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same, that I took that obligation freely without any mental reservation or purpose of evasion, and that I did will well and faithfully discharge the duties of the office as an officer in the United States Army. And I swore that to God. And as difficult as last month was, I still have to understand that there's a lot of things going on in the world that necessarily I don't fully understand. I'm not read into all of those things. I did not enjoy watching the President of the United States welcome home fallen warriors and look at his watch repeatedly. That to me was disrespectful. It was very disrespectful. But I'm not going to beat up the president about it. I'm not going to do that. He's a man just like me. He just happens to be the president of the United States. And if I get called back into military service, which could happen, I am on the retired rolls. Yeah, that doesn't mean I'm separated from the military. That oath I just told you, that's technically still in play. The military can say, you know what, we want this guy back for whatever particular reason. They could pluck me out of retirement and boom, I'm back in uniform. And I will follow the lawful orders of those appointed above me, even if I don't like their behavior. Now, I'm just going to tell you this. I can't change what happened last month. You can't change it. I can't change it. Nobody can change it. It's in the past. It's been done. It's been recorded into the history books. What we need to do is we need to move on from there. We need to effect some change in our lives. Because at the end of the day, it really doesn't matter. It does not matter what's going on all around you, because you can't control what is going on all around you. But you can control, to a limited degree, what is going on in the world that you can influence. So why not step away from the anger, the bitterness, the total frustration that you have with things that have occurred in this country for as far back as you want to go? Maybe we just need to start again. Maybe we need to start affecting some change in our lives and start changing the things that we can actually control. There are things in your life that affect you that you can make change upon. There are other things that affect you cannot change. Now, one of those big things that you can't change are, things like laws in this country. You can't change the laws of this country. Oh, wait a minute. Yes, you can. Technically, there is a process for that. And we elect people to lead us in this country. Whether we agree with them, disagree with them, it doesn't matter. We still hold elections. Now, I've got my opinion about the last round of elections that occurred, but I'm going to save that opinion for myself. Because I think we need to unite as a country. We need to move forward. We need to focus on what is truly important to us. And for me, it was a massive change that I was able to make. When we come back from the break, I'll spill my guts. I'll tell you everything. Stick around.
Welcome back to the Lifestyles Unlimited Real Estate Investor Radio Show. Now, let's get back to your map to financial freedom.
Welcome back to the show. All right, so we're going to talk about change. And I think change is important. And here's why. December 19th, 1986. That was the day I graduated from college. It's also the day I was commissioned as second lieutenant in the United States Army. And from there, my Army career began. Yeah, that was pretty much it. That's because you guys, you've been to college. Yeah, it's like you get to the end of college and you finally graduate, you get to wear that cap and gown, and then it's like 4 or 5 years of all of this has just ended. And now what? And now what? Yeah, that's kind of where I was on December 19th of 1986. So what I had to do was I had to start focusing on a military career. And as part of that military career, one of the things that I learned about, one of the benefits of being in the military was that if you served for 20 years, 20 good years, as determined by the United States Army, I would get a pension. Yeah, I'd get a retirement pension. And that sounded pretty good because back when I was just graduated from college, any money sounded good, right? Because come on, you were in college, any money sounds good. The other thing was this. At the age of 22, I really had no idea of what retirement was supposed to look like. Because I had always been told retirement occurs like in your 60s, maybe your 70s. And that's a long ways away from where I was at that time. And even though I had lived 22 years, the concept of me trying to rationalize what the next 40 years was going to look like was unrealistic. It was unrealistic. And most young people tend to blow off consideration of retirement, even though somewhere along the way somebody planted a seed in their mind that said, if you start early, you will get the results you're looking for. We still blew it off. We still blew it off. It wasn't until I was in my 30s and I had met my beautiful wife that I even started thinking seriously about retirement. So think about it. For 8 years, I was on cruise control. I was like, la, 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 I'm working on a pension. Everything's going to be fine. Meanwhile, I'm in my 20s. Haven't met my wife yet. I'm having a good time with life. I was having a good time in my 20s. I was invincible. I was making money for the first time, in my life. And I was moving forward through life. And then when I met my wife, I started thinking about things that maybe I probably should have been thinking about back when I was 22. And one of those things was retirement. Okay, so how do we get from where we're at to where we're going? So a friend of mine connected me with a financial planner. And I went and listened to what the financial planner had to say. And basically what the financial planner told me was that the pension that I was going to rely on probably wasn't going to be able to sustain me in retirement. In other words, what he was telling me was the pension's going to pay a certain amount of money, but your cost of living will probably be higher. Now, here's the problem I had when I was 30 years of age. I was projecting what my pension payment would be. Yeah, because there are tables out there. You can look at all kinds of stuff. The military gives you all kinds of tools and calculators and stuff that you can use to figure out what is my future benefit if I make it that far. And when I was looking at my future benefit, I thought, well, that's not a bad chunk of money. That's not really a bad chunk of money, because I knew I'd be at a much higher rank. I think I was a captain back in the day, and I was thinking I was going to make colonel before I retired. Well, long story short, I made it to lieutenant colonel. I was selected for colonel, but they never gave me the advancement because it didn't meet the needs of the Army. But back when I was a captain, looking what a lieutenant colonel would potentially draw in the future, and at that time it was probably a good, another at least 12 or more years away. It was actually longer than that away. And I'm thinking, well, that's not a bad bag of money. And over time, I fell away from what that financial planner had told me to do, because I experienced 2008. And I experienced the meltdown in not only the real estate markets, but I've experienced the meltdown in the stock markets. And, I just kind of thought, I will keep the real estate that I have afloat. I will sell off the stocks that I have because they're just going down in value. The mutual funds, they were all going down. Harvest the money, keep the real estate afloat, and I should be okay. And that was pretty much our mindset after 2008 came through, and pretty much did a number on me and my family financially. It really did. Well, coming out of 2008, I'd pretty much wrecked everything that I had done to create a financial lifestyle for my family, because things occurred in 2008 that I couldn't control. I couldn't control them. As a matter of fact, I did a short sale on my principal residence, and I lost a lot of money in that principal residence. And some people think, well, why didn't you just stay there and ride it out? Well, here's why. I worked for the Army, and the Army told me where to go. And in 2008, the Army told me to leave where that principal residence was and go to another duty station that was 5 hours away. And they told me, okay, it's going to be a temporary thing. So I thought, okay, well, I'll do the geographical bachelor thing. I'll take my RV and I'll take it down to that duty station. I'll find a place to park it. I'll live in it, and I'll commute home as often as I can. Because in 18 months, they're going to bring me back to that duty station, right? Wrong. They lied to me. As a matter of fact, they liked what I did so much at that duty station, they decided to permanently move me there, which meant I had a choice to make now. I either leave my family in place and keep doing this geographical bachelor thing, which was keeping me away from my family, or I pursue a short sale and walk away from everything that I had put into that house. Well, my family's more important than money. Yeah, you heard me say that. My family is more important to me than money. So we did the short sale thing, got the little ding on our credit report that we had never had, ever, and then we moved on and found a place to rent. Well, as time went by, it was time for me to either be promoted or retire. And as part of that process, that the Army decided that they were going to promote me. They had given me a letter saying, you've been selected for promotion. And one of the catches was, we need you to go overseas, go on a deployment. When you come back, we'll complete the story for you. We'll get everything taken care of. Okay, so I went and did that. And that's not exactly how everything worked out. How everything worked out was I came back from deployment and I went to retirement. And you want to talk about a significant change happening in your life? That was a significant change that happened to me, because all of a sudden now I was operating a household that required a certain amount of money to sustain, because, unlike that captain that had two very small children that weren't very expensive to, support, now I had transitioned my family into kind of a better lifestyle that cost a lot more money. Oh, and yeah, inflation did occur over the period, although it wasn't crazy inflation, but prices of things did go up. And when I got to the point of retirement, I found myself having to live off of 1/3 of what I had been making when I was serving on active duty. And that was a huge problem for me. That was a major change in my financial life that put a massive chokehold on me. So you're thinking, wow, what'd you do? All right, when we come back from the break, I'll give you the rest of the story. Stick around.
Warning, listening to the Lifestyles Unlimited Real Estate Investor Radio Show will change your life. We will teach you how to create wealth and passive income so you can be financially free. And now, back to your host.
When it was time for me to retire, the government decided, on my part, it was time for me to move on down, as we call the MSR, or the MSR that's an acronym for main supply route. In other words, when you're going against the grain, it's time for you to exit the battlefield, and that's exactly what I was doing. I was leaving the battlefield forever, at least up to that point, and I was going to retire at home. But the big problem I had was trying to live off of 1/3 of what I used to make. Yeah, you heard me correctly. See, the retirement pension that I earned doesn't give you replacement of all the income that you received when you were serving on active duty. See, active duty pay is based on what they call base pay, and then there's other entitlements that are available to you. And retirement is based off of the number of years you served and the number of years you served in your highest rank, and then they use a calculation as a percentage of your base pay. Yeah, so all you engineers out there just figured out that, oh man, they only give you a percentage of the base pay and you get all the other gravy. Yeah, that's right. That's how I was living off of 1/3 of what I had been making on active duty. So I had a huge problem. And you know what I needed to do? I needed to change. I needed to switch from being a warrior, and I had to figure out how to get myself into the workforce. But the problem I had was I was 50 years of age. I was dealing with ageism. Yes, it exists out there. Nobody will tell you that it's legitimate, but it exists out there. I have felt it, the sting of ageism. And it took me 10 months to get into the workforce. And I finally was able to penetrate into the workforce, but I found myself in a position that was many pay grades below what my true competencies were. But keep in mind, the people that I would have been competing for those upper paying jobs don't want a guy like me stepping in because maybe I might be a little better than them, right? Okay. Yeah, that's the way it works in corporate America and municipal governments and just about every darn organization that's out there. No matter what they tell you, there's always some kind of bias in place. So I start working in cubicle hell, and I'm hating life. I am imploding because I'm basically being told to sit in a cubicle, not move from the cubicle. I have to be there at a certain time. I can't leave till a certain time. Oh, by the way, I can't leave until I check with my boss because my boss's boss may not be, caught up with his work. So I need to stick around for another 3 or 4 hours while he finishes whatever he's working on because maybe I have to do something with that work product. Yeah. And it was terrible. It was terrible. So after enduring that for a little over 2 years, my son and I were listening to AM radio, and we heard the Lifestyles Unlimited Real Estate Investor radio show. We heard somebody like me, it wasn't me, but somebody like me who was sharing the good news of real estate investing and what real estate investing can do to change your current situation in life. And unlike a lot of the other messages that we had heard from different organizations trying to help us solve the same riddle, the message that Lifestyles Unlimited projected was clear and resolute, and it made total sense. So my son and I decided to go to our local Lifestyles Unlimited office, and we went to a free workshop. And I'll be honest with you, I was kind of in defensive posture, because I was ready for a good radio show that wouldn't be followed up with great information on a free workshop. And I went there specifically to poke holes in it because I'm a skeptic by nature. I really am. So my son and I, we listen to the information that was being presented to us, and it was actually some very good information. And my son says, "Well, I'm going to go sign up and become a member." And I'm like, "Hold on. I'm not sure this is the right thing for you to do." And my son's like, "No, this makes total sense to me." And of course, my skepticism was still kicking in. I thought, okay, well, I'll tell you what, I'll sign up too. We'll go to this 2-day financial freedom course that they talk about, where the rubber meets the road. And I'm pretty convinced, based on my background, my experience, all of my business degrees, and the fact that I've owned real estate in the past, I will be able to blow holes in whatever they're teaching. That way I can at least protect my son if this thing goes haywire. Well, my son and I, we get to the 2-day financial freedom course, and we get there on Saturday, and we start listening. And there's a guy by the name of David Fisher teaching us how to invest in real estate. Now, David's got a very interesting story. He's a former military guy himself. He was in the Air Force. I don't hold that against him. That was a joke. Anyway, he had been a drug dog handler, did a lot of interdiction stuff with the military, which is some pretty dangerous stuff. And at a certain point, the military kind of treated him wrong, and he was like, "You know what? I'm done. I'm going to go be self-employed." So he left the military, and he found himself owning businesses. He owned 2 stereo stores, and he found himself working like 80 hours a week to sustain these stereo stores. And at a certain point, he realized that those stereo stores were absolutely running his life for him. He had no free time to spend with his family. So he made a paradigm shift. He wound up selling those stereo stores. His wife had decided to pursue a career in the military as a nurse, and he decided, you know what, I'll be a stay-at-home mom. Except he was the dad. Yeah. And back in 2008, David Fisher was listening to the radio, and he heard the same type of information that I heard. He went to Lifestyles Unlimited and listened to what they had to say, and lo and behold, let's fast forward about 9 years, and I show up on the scene, and David Fisher has literally taken the only $70,000 he had to his name, which, by the way, was stuck in a house that he paid off free and clear. So he had to go out and get a loan on the house to get his money out of it so that he could start investing in real estate. And that's exactly what David Fisher did back in 2008. When David Fisher instructed my son Jonathan and I in 2017, and I've got the note right here in my book, that's where I know where David Fisher's wealth had grown to. He was already up at the $6 million net worth level. So he had turned $70,000 or I should say he changed $70,000 into about a $6 million net worth. Now, when I saw David this last weekend at the Wealth and Passive Income Expo that we host annually, I said, Dave, where's your number? He goes, all right, what number are we talking about? I got a lot of numbers. I'm like, okay, net worth-wise, where are you at? He says, oh, dude, I'm across 9. I'm across 9 million. I'm like, that is good information. So the reason I tell you all that stuff about David is now I have a former NCO in the services. And by the way, the best instructors in the military are the non-commissioned officers. Okay. Just so you got that background. I have him instructing my son and I on how we can change our lives, how we can stop doing the stupid stuff that we had been doing, take our pride, put it in our back pockets, and refocus our efforts on moving forward. So at that time, 4 years ago, John and I decided, you know what? We're going to take all of our money and we're going to invest all of our money into apartment deals that are being operated by other Lifestyles Unlimited members, because that's what made sense to us. Because to be honest with you, I was still working in that dead-end job, and I hadn't gotten out. I was looking for a way out, but I couldn't just walk away. I couldn't just walk away from the income streams, because real estate doesn't magically create wealth overnight. It takes time to get it done. Well, we deployed all of our capital at the end of 2017 and the beginning of 2018, and every one of those apartment buildings that we had invested in has produced fruit. Every one of them has either closed escrow or is in escrow or has multiple offers on it right now, which is going to cause us to sell those properties. So what I'm getting at is, by listening to the advice of a self-made millionaire that listened to the advice of another self-made millionaire who founded this company back in, 31 years ago. His name's Del Walmsley. I was able to change my life. And by doing the things I was taught, I was able to get to a point of retirement 2 years later, which allowed me to walk away from that dead-end job. I had been able to effectively retire myself. And that is the kind of change I'm talking about. You can get caught up in the noise of the world. You can get caught up in the day-to-day business of things that you cannot control. What I think you need to focus on are the things that you absolutely can control, and I think you need to dial in a plan that will get you to a place of retirement. Not the retirement that society tells you about that occurs at the age of 65 or 70. I'm talking about the retirement that occurs within the next 5 years if you do the things that we teach you to do. And having said all of that, I'm going to give a moment of silence here for what occurred 20 years ago. I want to thank you for listening to the show. I look forward to talking to you next week. And remember, if you're ready to get started, go to lifestylesunlimitedworkshop.com.
The Lifestyles Unlimited Real Estate Investor Radio Show is for entertainment purposes only. Please consult a professional regarding your personal investment needs. Nothing presented on the Lifestyles Unlimited Real Estate Investor Radio Show constitutes an endorsement, recommendation, offer, or solicitation to buy or sell any product or security.